friends, welcome to Beautifully Bookish Bethany, where I have new videos every week about books and the geeky mom lifestyle. In today's video, we're going to be talking about two things I am a fan of: sci-fi and romance. So if you are looking for YA books that are sci-fi romances, I've got you covered with 8 book recommendations. So for all of the books on this list, they are sci-fi novels with a heavy romantic plot. I would say that the biggest focus of the plot in these books is the romance, even though there may be other things going on as well. The first book I'm going to recommend to you is probably the least heavy on the sci-fi elements, but it is one that is really popular and gets recommended frequently. I liked but didn't love this book, but I know a lot of other people are huge fans, so I wanted to put it on your radar. This is The Weight of the Stars by Kay Ancrum. This is a YA contemporary novel with a slight sci-fi element to it. It has a sapphic romance at the center of it with very prickly female characters and a strong friend group. In fact, for me, the friend group was my favorite part of this book, but I have a lot of friends who really love it. So if you're looking for a queer YA sci-fi romance that is very light on the sci-fi elements of it, you might want to check out The Weight of the Stars. My next recommendation for you is on the soapier end of the spectrum, but I thought this was super fun. It is a new take on an older series. This is The Darkest Star by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is a spin-off of the Lux series, which I never read initially. This was my first introduction to it, and I thought it was super fun. This is basically where you have hot aliens in human bodies and a romance between a human girl and an alien. It's really fun, really soapy, fast-paced, and pretty enjoyable with, again, a slight sci-fi element to it. Next up, I want to recommend 2 books that have some similarities. If you are looking for YA books with queer romance and superpowers, I've got 2 pretty great recommendations for you. First up is The Infinite Noise by Lauren Shippen. This is fun if you're looking for kids with superpowers living their everyday lives and going to therapy to figure out how to deal with those superpowers, while there's also some kind of a science-y government conspiracy going on. This one I really enjoyed. The main characters are 2 boys who are both trying to cope with these superpowers and with being teenagers. They're seeing the same therapist and accidentally end up meeting each other, befriending each other, and then developing a very slow burn romance. It's super adorable with a little bit of a quieter romance to it, but I thoroughly enjoyed this one. My other recommendation for this type of book is The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune. This one made me laugh out loud, and of course humor is different for everybody, but if you have the same sense of humor that I do, you might find this to be really funny. It follows a gay teen boy who writes fanfic involving his favorite real-life extraordinary, who's kind of a person with these superpowers. So he's got this huge crush on this sort of superhero extraordinary. Meanwhile, everybody but him realizes that his best friend has been crushing on him for a really long time, and he is completely oblivious to it. This one is very fun, very funny, but it does also touch on some more serious issues with a lighter touch. It deals with grief from the loss of a parent. It has a main character who's also dealing with ADHD, and it is own voices for both the gay representation and the ADHD representation. I thought this one was really fantastic, so if you're looking for a superpower type sci-fi book with queer romance at the heart of it, The Extraordinaries and The Infinite Noise are both really great options. Next up, I will recommend what is becoming a classic in this genre, and that is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. I mean, you knew something from the Lunar Chronicles had to go on this list. This series puts a sci-fi spin on classic fairy tales, and they're just really fun. Fast-paced, easy to get through, great characters, good world building, and some really great romances. So Cinder is the first book in the series, and the main character is a cyborg version of Cinderella. If you haven't read the series yet, it is one that I would say is definitely worth the hype and a classic of YA sci-fi romance. My next recommendation is a 2020 debut. This is The Sound of Stars by Alicia Dow. I read this recently and really enjoyed it. It's a very quirky sort of book and probably not going to be quite everybody's speed, but I kind of loved it, and it really does have this sci-fi romance element at the heart of it and has a relatively light touch, even though it deals with some pretty dark issues at times. The Sound of Stars is set in a sort of dystopian future after an alien invasion, following a girl who loves books and an alien who loves pop music, and the question of whether their love for those things and eventually each other can save the world. It's really cute and fun and tongue-in-cheek, but also has some darker elements to it as well, dealing with things like colonization, racism, and severe anxiety. But I really liked this quirky little book a lot, and I hope more people will pick it up, so if that sounds up your alley, go check out The Sound of Stars by Alicia Dow. My next recommendation is a mashup of sci-fi and a classic romance. This is Brightly Burning by Alexa Dunn. This has been pitched as Jane Eyre in space, and that is pretty much what this is. It's fun. It's basically Jane Eyre, but set in a space background. There are some slight changes to the story that are made that I do think make sense for a YA audience. Of course, you shouldn't try to compare this to the original Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte because that's not going to work out well for you. But I did think this was really enjoyable and puts a fresh spin on a classic romance that hopefully will also get people interested in reading the original books. And my final recommendation for you today is a very slow burn friends to lovers romance set in the world of Star Wars. This is A Crash of Fate by Zoraida Cordova, and it's basically what I just said. It's a YA friends to lovers romance set in the world of Star Wars, and particularly this is set at Galaxy's Edge, which is the new area in Disneyland that's focused on Star Wars. So this is one of 2 or 3 books, I think, that were written based on Galaxy's Edge, and I have to say it was super fun because after I read this, I got to go visit Galaxy's Edge with my husband when we went to Disneyland. And it was really, really cool getting to find the different places and things that are described in this book. So especially if once things kind of calm down with COVID and everything in the world, you're interested in going to actually visit it in person, this would be a fun book to read ahead of time because it'll give you kind of a sense of the world and you'll be able to pick out places and people and little hidden gems that are found in this book, which was super fun. The pacing on this is a little slow, but especially if you enjoy Star Wars and you like kind of this world, this is another great option for a YA sci-fi romance. So there you have it, 8 YA sci-fi romances that you guys can go and check out. Hopefully this puts some new books on your radar so you can get the fix that you are looking for. Talk to me in the comments down below. Let me know any of your thoughts or feelings on anything I talked about in this video. And for your question of the day, tell me about a sci-fi romance that you are a fan of. It could be something on this list, it could be something else. I'd be interested to hear from you. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.